Welcome to the Master Your Genius podcast with Keith Cornies. Listen in and learn as he coaches entrepreneurs to master their genius. Here's your host, Coach Keith.
Hey everybody, how you doing? It's Coach Keith here, and you are going to be listening to, I think, episode 7 with Dan Loney, entrepreneur, amazing man. This is such a great episode. We covered so much so fast so far. We talked about Dan's, one of his biggest obstacles that he faced in growing his businesses. Dan is an entrepreneur who has a business that he can sell. He's philanthropic. He's doing amazing work with the James Project. We talked about what he needed to do to be able to build his businesses. We talked about the obstacles that got in the way. And then at the end, we also talk about what he's doing with his leadership program and what he calls his talking notes, which I think will be great for leaders when looking to communicate with your teams. As entrepreneurs, what you're going to find is he's got the obstacles that we have, that you and I have, that all the entrepreneurs have. So by listening to this and hearing it, hopefully what you're going to be able to do is get a solid direction, stop being indecisive, take some risk in your business, which is another great part of this interview. So, hey, have a good time. Listen to it. If you love it, come to Coach Keith on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe and download the podcast. And we look forward to helping you master your genius. Hey, everybody. How you doing? It's Coach Keith here with Dan Loney. Dan, say hi.
Hello, everybody.
Dan's my puppet. Dan, say hi. Wow, pretty honored to be here today. Very humbled. Dan Loney is a good friend of mine. Also, as far as entrepreneurs go, there's a difference between an entrepreneur and a salesperson. A salesperson, basically, if you're self-employed, you work, and then when you retire, you have nothing to sell. You see this a lot, Dan. Mm-hmm. An entrepreneur ends up with a business that he can sell to somebody to carry on or take forth. So Dan's business, that one of his businesses that he's in is Loney Financial. And Dan, you were saying that Loney Financial was, it's in the Wealth Professional Hall of Fame. Only 2 people in British Columbia and maybe 10 overall in Canada are in that for your company. And also you've received an Excellence Award. What was that one about for?
That was the Excellence Award given by Manulife to one of 30,000 advisors, but that was in 2010. They started that inaugural award for professional criteria and basically philanthropy.
Well, we're kind of on that philanthropy, which we'll get to, which I love about you. So let's also just do a little bit more bragging here so that people have some good quality understanding of the man that's sitting here with me. So you sat on the board of directors for Manulife as an advisor. And you did 2 boards there, but the one that I'm really impressed with is the board called Focus on the Family.
Right.
And Focus on the Family is not some small operation, is it? No,
Focus on the Family was started by Dr. Dobson in the U.S. back in the 70s. And the U.S. organization will reach $150, $200 million that run through there every year to support the initiatives of supporting families. And in Canada, we're probably anywhere from 9 to 12 million, depending on donations per year. So it's quite a operation.
Yeah. So, Dan, you're invited to fly all over the world and speak for these people as well. You got some great stories because Dan is very philanthropic. He has a venture he calls James.
The James Project.
James Project.
Yeah.
Yeah, tell us a little bit about that.
Well, that's an interesting story. I was asked to go to Guatemala for a client, and I do business consulting, and I refused to go 4 times. I said to the client, "No, I'm not going." And he's a friend of mine.
Just like I refused you 4 times.
Yeah. And I finally, really interesting thing happened. I have this crazy bucket list. My wife knows about, about my bucket list and how that I see things in the world, and I think, well, why not have dinner with Chuck Norris? Why not, do these crazy things that I've done in my life? Why not spend a day with Schwarzenegger and things like that? So I had said to this client of mine, I said, no, I don't want to go to Guatemala for this 2-hour meeting because they shoot people down there, right? And so what happened was I was watching television and I saw, I think it was a prelims. I'm a hockey guy, as you know, but I enjoy all sports, and I was watching a world prelim for the World Cup in soccer. And they were in Belgium, and this game was all the these riots and riot police and flares and barbed wire fence and all that. And I thought, that's something I want to put on my bucket list. I want to go to a soccer game, international soccer game, where there's that kind of passion.
That's crazy.
So
I don't even want to go close
Well, it's
to
kind of like running to the Bulls or something like that. For me,
thanks,
it was
but no thanks.
It was a soccer game. So I said to my client, well, did they have those soccer games in Guatemala with the barbed wire fence and the riot police? And he goes, oh, yeah. He says, I said, here's the deal. You get me into that soccer game, and I'll go to your 2-hour meeting in Guatemala. He said, done. So the night before we left, I said to my wife in the kitchen, I said, honey, I'm lamenting this decision. Why am I going to Guatemala for a 2-hour meeting? She says, honey, when you get there, God will reveal to you why you're there, right? She says, but come here, I want to show you something.
Well, let's introduce Joy real quick.
Yeah.
So Dan's been married to Joy for how long?
I think it's 42 years now, yeah.
And Danny, how many of your own children do you have?
We have 5 biological children.
And how many adopted children have you raised in your home?
Well, altogether, the way I phrase it is we birthed, adopted, and raised 33.
33
altogether.
children
Yeah.
in his house.
Yeah.
And these are not the easiest of easiest children to raise, are they?
Well,
a lot of them are born with the...
Yeah, they start out with some challenges. Most of all our adopted children are drug babies and come from mothers in addiction, and the mothers are not able to care for them. So my wife is like this amazing...
Mother Teresa of raising children.
She's the baby whisperer.
Yeah, amazing.
She just understands children.
Good sidebar.
Yeah.
So that's Joy. That's another part of Dan I wanted to get out, which is really impressive because I have 2 children and, I don't have as much gray hair though, but you're a little older than me too. So, okay. So continue on. You're in Guatemala. You're going to the game. What happened in there?
Yeah. Well, the night before I left, she takes me in the living room and shows me this suitcase and says, honey, since you're going to Guatemala, I bought this suitcase and it's filled with $300 full of toys and dolls and things like that. And she says, I want you to take this to an orphanage. So now, I'm a checklist guy. I got consulting. I got soccer game. I got this.
Bought by orphanage.
Yeah, drop. So we get to Guatemala, sit in the 2-hour meeting. My client gets the contract that he was looking for, so he was successful in that. And then I went to the soccer game, which is a whole other story. I mean, that's a story in itself, the soccer game. It was crazy. One small part, I said to my driver, when the riot police started to come out, I said, what's going on? There's nothing happening here. Why we need riot police? She says, oh, senor, we're down to nothing. There's going to be trouble. All of a sudden, I thought, well, maybe my idea wasn't such a great idea. Anyways, I asked for help. I said, I have this suitcase, and could they help me find an orphanage to drop? So they had a lady pick me up, drove me to this house in Guatemala City. It wasn't an orphanage, but it was a woman from Montana, Mother Carol, who had seen the plight of homeless little girls on the street. And there's 20,000 homeless children in Guatemala.
That's crazy.
So she took in a little girl and then another little girl. By the time I'd met her, she had taken in 22 little girls. So I was told this story driving to this house in Guatemala. Well, I had my day planned. I was going to drop this bag off and go back to the hotel for a workout. So I'm a better hockey player on the ice with you, right?
Yeah.
And then I was going to have a swim and a massage and a steak dinner, and that was it. And
hard life.
Yeah, it's tough, Some of us must suffer, but it's a sacrifice I'm willing to make. I think that was from
So
scratch.
I think so. You take the toys to the orphanage. You donate there. That's like handing out Christmas to everybody. But tell me the story about what really made the James Project come to fruition. You were with this guy. You're walking through the town. This little boy comes up and he wants to sell you some stuff, or he.
Well, so what what happened? Long story short, I gave out the toys just like you said, and not life changing. It was wonderful.
It's life changing for them.
For them,
Not for us.
yeah. But to have little girls squeal over a doll or sunglasses or something like that. But what happened the next hour? Drop kicked me, blindsided me. Keith, as a man, I had never in my life even thought about a 6-year-old girl in prostitution.
Yeah.
This is 2005.
Unbelievable.
All right?
Unbelievable, yeah.
I'm a hockey player. I literally said to her at one point, to Mama Carol, I said, why don't men just grab some baseball bats and go after these guys and stop this? And with these sad eyes, Mama Carol looked at me and said, Dan, you don't get it. Like, most of these girls were put in prostitution by their mothers.
Yeah.
It's a cycle, right? Yeah. So I went back to my hotel that night, and I was crushed. I'm not ashamed to tell you, I wept. I don't think I had wept in 30 years, cried in 30 years, And this just crushed me. And I phoned my wife, and I went home, and the story has to go back now 35 years, because when I was 13 years old, my father came in on a Saturday morning, sat on the edge of my bed and talked to me, and he said, "Son, I'm going to sell my company." And he had one of the top 5 most successful electrical companies in Western Canada.
Obviously, business is in your mindset because your dad was successful. You're very successful. I mean, there is some, maybe nature versus nurture, who knows, or just the watching your father as a mentor. But anyways, either way, just want to bring that to the forefront because we are going to get to the business aspect of this as well.
Yeah. So Dad said, "Son, I think I'm going to sell my company, big U.S. corporation," and wanted to buy him. And I said, "Dad, what are you going to do?" And I'm 13, right? What do I know? And he says, "Well, I'm going to do something else. I don't know." I says, "But I'm going to do it with you." I said, "Really?" And I said, "Well, what are we going to call the company?" He says, "Well, J.R. Loney and Son," because my dad's name was James Ralph Loney. And then he said, "You know what we're going to do, son? We're going to build an orphanage for children."
No way.
Yeah, and I thought, okay. And it's Saturday morning, I'm waking up, right? And
13-year-old kid, orphanage, looked it up in the dictionary.
Yeah.
What does orphanage even mean?
So Dad walks out, and it was the strangest thing. It's so crystal clear, burned in my brain. A year later, my father's corporate aircraft hits a mountain. He's killed. Everybody on board is killed. Tragic accident. Wow. And I'm a 14-year-old kid. We lived on the English Bluff in Tawasin, and I sat on a stump on the cliff overlooking the ferries, and I thought, my dad's gone, but his dream was to build an orphanage for children. So I'm going to keep that dream alive. Wow. And what the plan was for me, I'm naive, right? I'm 14 years old, was to work all my life at a job and then sell my house, take that money, build a house for kids, and I would live in an apartment somewhere, right? When I married Joyce, she was 18. I said, "Well, by the way..." You mean
the plan changed?
Yeah, you'll see.
I think that's a good note here. Like, you can come out with a great dream and a plan, and as you go through it, it changes. It can become bigger. It become better. I mean, that's the point of dreaming, right? Like, Dan also runs Loney Leadership, in which I facilitate some meetings with you, and the big part of Loney Leadership is follow the star, and the star, we're not going to get into that today, but the truth is giving yourself vision, purpose, meaning, responsibility by having that dream, ends up driving somebody that just wants to sell his house and buy a condo to being and operating a massive, successfully business, and then starting another business. So anyway, so you're sitting on the stump, you look out, you have this, okay, I'm going to do this. You kind of create this plan. You start to move forward. But somewhere between 13 and 20, Danny gets off path.
Oh, yeah, totally.
We'll just make that a real short story in case the police are listening.
Yeah, teenager. It's unbelievable. I end up, basically living with bikers in Surrey, and, I come from a great home, great upbringing, business family, and now my whole life is just if I got a Harley and, $10 in my pocket. And
well, I can imagine at 13 losing your father would have an impact sociologically and also like mentally, who knows where we go at that. I mean, the truth is we don't know the path that life's going to put us on, and, you get this dream and you start heading there, and all of a sudden there's a bump in the road or a big bump where you lose your father, and then you're off in another direction, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, if anybody's listening out there and you're a mentor, like, help these young people out. Like, holy cow. Like, I mean, if there's any generations that need it more, it's the one we're in now, where if you're a mentor, if you're in a position of, some wisdom in your life, you feel like you're taking the knowledge you have and applying it properly, get out there and make a difference. Volunteer, help some of these young people out, give them direction. Because you can imagine if, and you went on your journey, which is great. So you went down that side path. Then you had that moment. You can talk about that moment where you came out of that.
Yeah, I think, some people say they found God. I think God found me. Really, I wasn't looking for any spiritual experience or anything like that, but I had a life-changing event where I had 3 questions, and it was simply, do you believe in God? And I said, yeah, I don't have the faith to believe in evolution and all that we just kind of, and I'm not being disrespectful to the people that do, but I just don't have that much faith to believe that we.
Well, I'll preface this.
Yeah.
Dan is a a sheep in wolf's clothing. He would sit in our dressing room with a bunch of rough guys, and he wouldn't peddle or, he wouldn't push your opinion or your beliefs. He would just hang out with us, and it was great. We traveled to Germany, and inside is this, this sheep who thinks like maybe I'll guide these guys the right way one day. And it's funny because I always say that about you because you're one of the best guys when it comes down to faith and religion is if you want to talk about it, you talk about it, and if you don't, you don't. So I hope everyone out there really listens to this so they see how you got direction. You know what I mean? And maybe people are lost out there or they can't get focused because they have lack of direction. And I don't care how they find their direction. I just want them to get focused, right? Yeah. So go ahead and continue on there.
Well, the three questions that came to me and really in a drunken stupor that night was, do you believe in God? And I said, yeah, I do. Do you believe that Jesus Christ is the Son of God? And I had to think about that for a while. I thought, well, I was influenced because I was sent to Sunday school and things like that. But I thought, no, I'd be a barefaced liar if I didn't. And then the third question is, well, then why are you living this way? Right? And so I knew that people...
What a great cognitive process. Taking you out of the situation being, maybe it was the drunkenness. I had those deep thoughts too, with Bill Morrison late at night. But it's like, it's that thought process that we go into that challenges us. And I love how you say it's like, I couldn't lie to myself. I had to say yes to that. It's those yes or no moments that actually define us instead of this ambiguity, this indecisiveness, which is the thief of success and joy and everything, right?
Yeah.
So you have that conversation. It's going on in your head.
And then essentially I made a deal with God. I said, I don't like my life where it's going. I'm probably going to die, if I keep living this way. And I'm going to make a deal. You change my life in the next 3 weeks, and if you do, then I will serve you the rest of my life. And that was entered into a personal relationship with Jesus Christ that has really led me through the rest of my life. And I am, to this day, devout in my beliefs and my love for God, and just trying to find my way like everybody else. Life has. I mean, we got 33 kids in your life. Are you kidding me?
How do I get to the airport? How do I fly to Guatemala? How do I fly to?
All of these.
Try to find your way.
Yeah.
All right, so let's get into this. So that sounds to me like your aha moment. And then it was proven to you because down the road there was Dan had an experience that just kind of nailed it for him. So let's go forward now. So would you say that is the one thing? What is it that you learned about yourself then? And then transitioning, being where you are now. What was one of the things that you learned that was major in you going forward and accomplishing what you've accomplished?
Well, I think that, as we teach in Loney leadership, that your North Star determines everything, right? And we ask people, what is your North Star? If it's God or your own personal beliefs or a different religion, whatever,
purpose,
it's going to
family,
fashion everything, frame everything about why you do what you do, right? So, we just, in my life, it's to honor God and everything that I do, to leave nothing on the ice, right?
Yeah, I love that. I love that. That's my core values, right? Yeah. Like now you're talking about discipline and commitment. And so now you got the North Star, you got direction, you're not leaving anything on the ice. What was the hardest thing for you to change? Like what was hard, like an old programming that you had, like a thought process that was hard to change to have that belief to move forward? Like, I remember my experience is my coach took me into a vision and I saw myself hanging by a branch on a cliff, very dramatic as I am. And she's like, she says, okay. So I said, I can't let go. Everyone says that let go, God's going to catch you, or let go, and I was like, no, I can't. I'm going to fall down on the rocks. And then one vision, like, I don't know, maybe 5 years later doing the work, she said, let go. And when I let go, I just dropped and hit concrete. Like I just was only an inch off the ground. I was like, oh, wow, it's not that bad. So having faith or having a belief in something, because I was always in control of everything. I was a master of my destiny. So that control limited my success, by the way, drastically. That day that I let go and realized that I got to have faith or I got to have belief in whatever it is, in God, or if it's going to be, for me, I decided to call it purpose, and purpose gave me drive. And my purpose was to keep my family together when I was going through the drama in our marriage. And so all of a sudden I had focus on my family, and then all of a sudden I became a warrior, and then I started just working hard and doing the right things in the right direction all the time, because it actually gives you a backbone to make the decision. So you find God, you commit to this. What was the hardest part for you to change? How did you find? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I think, there's a scripture that says, without faith it's impossible to please God. And my synonym for the word faith is risk.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure. Absolutely. I love that.
So I had to risk.
Wow.
I now had to live my life. And I asked myself today, Dan Loney, where's the risk in your life?
Wow.
If there's no risk in your life.
So challenge, hey? So
Yeah.
that constant challenge.
Yeah.
Wow.
And by the
full-
way,
yeah, I get that.
because we're on the radio, you're my hero. You know why? Because I was your friend through all of that when you went through that thing with your marriage. And to all the guys out there that watch this and all the women that watch out there, your marriage is worth saving. Your marriage is worth investing in. Your marriage is worth.
If you come through the other side,
Yeah,
you know,
for sure.
the juice is there, man. I tell you, I just so blessed that I made it through that time. It was tough.
And we all
for
go
sure.
through those ups and downs, right? I mean, not to the extreme that you went through it, but you're my hero because you. Your back was against the wall. You fought back from that to where you have a wonderful family today.
Well, with focus, I can put the energy in the right direction.
Yeah.
Right? The energy in the wrong direction destructs stuff.
Yeah.
So it's funny because it's like you talk about risk and faith. And as a
Yeah.
coach, I always tell my clients, like, you need to expand, you need to take risk in your business. Sometimes you're going to have to invest your money in something that you don't know is going to work out for sure and follow that idea.
Yeah.
And a lot of my clients have invested that money, followed that idea, and it's come back tenfold.
Yeah.
But I always make them know that you have to have the belief that what you're investing in could work, 100%. Don't go in half-heartedly. Then you have to have faith that you can execute it, right? And you don't ever feel you're alone because you're with God. I know we've had these conversations.
Yeah.
So when you go to have faith to execute, you just kind of like give it up. You just like, okay, here's what we're going to do. Let's go for it. And then you go and you execute it. And we're sitting here with a guy that has multiple businesses that, you know, I mean, financially is doing wonderful things in the world, giving back. So here, let's get back to that. So you understand the learning that you had is that you had this faith. The opposite of faith was risk. And your learning was, I had to apply risk. What were the obstacles that started out, first of all, when you were applying that risk?
Well, you know, one of the things that you realize in life to do good things, you have to decide and ask yourself, am I all in?
Oh, yeah.
Because
Ain't that the truth? No plan B, man.
no plan B. It's
Yeah.
like burn the ships on the shore. Are
Yeah,
you all
are
in?
you all in? Great statement.
And I think in leadership that also demonstrates to others that you're all in.
Well, if a leader's not all in, you're not getting followers.
Right.
Like, you know, I always say that, you know, you can have something really good and it only takes something very small to ruin it. Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
So as soon as, like, you can have confidence, but as soon as you have that little bit of self-doubt, confidence is gone.
It's the fly in the soup.
Yeah. All of a sudden, you focus on the fly, not the soup.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly. So what I find with people is they say they're all in, but they're not. And I've coached people that have had a plan B. Like, if this doesn't work out, like realtors, if this doesn't work out, I'm going to go to another job. I'm like, let that go. Go cancel that. Go burn that bridge. Go tell them, you know, you guys are losers. I ain't coming back.
Yeah.
If you don't have that commitment, that all-in commitment, it ain't going to happen. So you learned that you had to be all in. And you had to take that risk. And the obstacles that got in the way would have been self-doubt, and what would have been your obstacles earlier on?
Fear is a huge thing that, you know, the voices in your head that say, well, if you don't succeed, you got. And at the time when I started the financial industry, I had 5 little kids, right? And
And you had to go door to door, knock to knock, get in those kitchens, sell
well,
sell
I
the
actually
stuff.
didn't do that. I didn't do the door to door thing, but I played in a lot of hockey teams.
And got a lot of good connections.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Be
Yeah.
in the community, be out there, be congruent, give your, you know, gift, your job to the people, and they will come to you, right? So
Yeah.
do you still have fear today?
No, not much. I mean, sometimes I have to address it. You know that.
You have fear today. You have to address it.
You
So
have to address
the answer
it,
is
yeah.
yes, I have fear, because we always have fear.
Yeah.
What do you think right now is a dominant fear that you might have that you're addressing and doing the work around?
Well, the one concern that when I talk to my mentors, I'm 63, but I have mentors in my life that are in their 70s, and one of my mentors who built a $6 billion company, we had lunch yesterday, and he said, Dan, I'm just a little concerned that you're not doing too much, you know, that you can only roll so many tires, right? And that everything is in control. And it is in control. And we discussed my operational methods and how I handle everything. And he was happy with that, but he saw all the things that
Was
I'm
he
doing.
worried that you wouldn't make money in the businesses, or that you would burn out trying to do too many
that
things?
I would burn out. Yeah.
He was worried about you personally.
Personally, yeah.
It's good to have that guy in your corner.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good to have that guy in your corner. Okay, so you learned that, you got your faith, which was awesome, and then you realized the opposite of that was risk. So you're always taking these risks. You do have these fears. That was him telling you his fear. What's your fear that you're facing?
What is my fear?
You're starting a new business with Amy. Shout out to Amy, but you're
Yeah.
starting a new business with Amy and Loney Leadership, which I'm working with you in, and
Yeah.
and you're investing some good time and money into that
Yeah.
to build that business.
Yeah.
And that's a business that you have a great relationship with Bob Beal,
Yeah.
excellent leader, psychologist, instructor,
Master.
and master in the States,
Yeah, absolutely.
right? So, do you have any fear around that?
Yeah, and I would morph the word from fear to concern. Is that
Whatever makes you feel comfortable, Dan.
Yeah, right. That's right. that fits a little bit better than fear.
I like to. You know what I love to do, Danny? I just love to call it what it is.
Yeah, for sure.
I just love to say. I was talking with someone the other day. I was helping a young man that I'm coaching, and he was like, he's in trouble with his marriage. I had a really bad temper. Danny knows I was a little bit of a violent guy.
No, really.
And I completely switched that, right? So this young guy's sitting down there, and he's like, and I go, so what's going on? He kind of goes, well, I go, what's going on? Well, I lose my cool sometimes. I go, do you have a temper? And he goes, well, and I go, look at me
Yeah.
and just tell me you have a temper. You have to say, I have a temper, so you can now fix
Yeah.
that temper. You can't wishy-washy around it.
Yeah.
Like when I said, I have a temper and I want to fix it, now I can fix it. But if I pretend I don't have it or I'm kind of ambiguous about it, it doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
So fear or concern, it doesn't matter to me. If you call it a fear, then you can go to faith. Mm-hmm. Right? But if you call it a concern, you don't go to faith.
Well, when I think about fear, is a freeze.
Yeah.
It freezes you from what you're going. And a concern, in my mind, I think, well, it's there. You're aware that it's there, but you have faith that the outcome is.
So
going
what's
to
that
be
concern
better.
for you?
Well, number one, that I have such an amazing mentor in my life, Bob Beal, who just took me on 15 years ago and then took an interest in me. We went from a professional relationship. This man is 42 years of consulting to over 500 presidents of U.S. corporations and organizations.
Yeah, he's got an amazing business.
Brilliant man.
Yeah.
And that we went professional.
What's he doing with you, eh?
Yeah, well, and if
'Cause
you want,
you're a brilliant
you can
man.
hire Bob out at $10,000 a day, right?
Yeah.
He's that kind of a consultant. But our professional relationship, we hired him to do consulting for our company. Then it morphed into a friendship. Then our wives become friends. And look out, when your wives become friends, then it's over. It's cemented. And then it morphed into a mentor-protege relationship because I boldly say I'm the number one Bob Beal disciple in the world. I worked through his materials. I understand them. They resonate.
Applied them.
Yeah, they applied them. And the thing that I love that Bob is a master at, he takes complexity and brings it down to simple
Simplicity,
solutions
yeah.
that just are powerful. So
Yeah, I love that.
I want to honor that. He's
Yeah.
76. I want to honor
So
that.
your concern is that you're not going to be
we
able to
do-
honor that.
With that, we do a great job in honoring the material and teaching others and affecting people's lives and making other people's lives better. So that I want to do that. I look at the Don Cherry thing. Let's
Sure.
talk about that. Here's a man that we've all thought
Before we go
great-
there, and
Yep.
I'll come back to that, I promise. What's your opposite of concern? If you're not concerned about something, you are?
My opposite of concern, comfortable.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what do you need to become comfortable with as you move forward so you can honor the legacy of Bob Beal?
I think it's to focus on the plan, the steps, and sometimes stress is
The defocuser.
is the indecision, right? So
Yeah.
stress is an indecision or lack of control. Those are two things that we teach at Loney Leadership. So right now, everything is in my control about the plan and how we're walking through it. And if there is any stress or concern, it would come if we have indecision about a next move here or there.
What do you need to let go of to move forward to have that success? So you go back to when you found God, you had that faith, right? From faith comes risk. Now you love that risk. You move forward with that risk. So here you are now, and you're in one of the biggest risks of all. Your mentor, you're the number one disciple. You're moving forward with his business model, and he's given you that trust and power, right?
Sure.
So
Yeah.
what do you got to let go of so that you can perform 100%? I don't want you going in the corners looking over your shoulder.
Right.
Right? So
Right.
what do you have to let go of?
Just create. ideally, long-term, what's the best solution? What's the best outcome to focus on?
Good.
That.
Do you have that?
I do.
Awesome. So
Absolutely.
you're going to let go of the short-term concerns about ruining the legacy of Bob, which is powerful. Like that would be a defocuser that would derail a company instead of going forward. It's like, it doesn't take much to derail someone's focus. Emotional states of mind are 7 to 10 times more powerful than the positive state of mind. Oh, it's going to be fine. It's going to work out. And then in the back corner, it's like, well, what if I don't make this work? So what I think you should do is honestly, just as your coach, a little bit of advice is call up Bob and have a conversation with him around this.
Yeah.
So you can clean it up real clean, and he can give you some great advice. And then you can move forward 150%.
And we've done that. We've had events in that where he's just
but
and
you
not only
one-on-one.
him, but his,
you one-on-one with him.
Yeah,
having that convo.
where he's very, very happy the way things are going.
Absolutely.
Like he's tickled pink.
That's what you have to acknowledge.
Yeah, and his wife, which
Yeah.
like Bob speaks to my head.
Yeah.
Cheryl speaks to my heart.
Yeah.
And she's very happy.
So just acknowledge that. Acknowledge that they've given you the blessing. Let's get back to Don Cherry.
Yeah.
Go for it.
Well, my comment was, in respect to my relationship with Bob, and that you want to honor people, and with Don, I think he's a great guy. He's an awesome guy. I think people, took things out of context. Really. Now, I don't want to go down that line. My point is that you can go along in life and then something can happen.
Yeah, you can make one decision that ruins your whole legacy.
Yeah, exactly.
Sure. But
Yeah.
the truth is his legacy is not ruined. The truth
No.
is his legacy is not ruined. Basically what it is it's tarnished, and he's leaving on a bad note. The work that he's done with Tim Hortons, kids hockey, there's people out there whose lives are touched that would defend him to the bitter end.
Yeah, for sure.
In 2020, as you working with Loney Leadership, as me working with you and AIM coaching, and my whole podcast is about mastering your genius so that one day you don't make that mistake.
Yeah.
Thank you for watching this episode of Master Your Genius. If you haven't already, please hit the subscribe button. See you next time.